sometimes they can be a little bit aggressive.
Right, it's this huge dog, it was 6 and it had its balls.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what's petrified? It was the nicest dog in the whole world. And it's a tiny little dog. And obviously I started at this dog, and it's going to jump back. And then it jumped forward and scrambled.
I guess we do sport today.
So
I think it is, yeah. But it's very small.
that's so cute.
I always notice the fox, which is on Green Lake. It's in the two.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Double take.
Yes. Or so
Get to smile. This is I don't like I didn't do A-level biology because
Yeah. How you doing?
really excited by this.
Yeah, that's good.
Really good.
I hope so.
No pressure.
That was a grumpy arm cross. Hey, how you doing?
I'm alright.
Yeah, good. Just daydreaming at the moment. Yes, that's great. What time do you think we're going to start? Is it just...
Soon.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good. Yeah. I'm going to do a talk first and then I'll answer questions while doing some taxidermy. Oh, there? Oh, yeah, I will move it. Oh, I see, yeah. When I'm doing it, I'll take this off. Yeah, it's cool. Oh, it's on now, isn't it? All right. When I'm doing my talk, it'll be quite boring. Unless, do you want to be able to see the screen while I'm giving my talk on this, or no? Yeah. I mean after, but I'm going to do a talk with slides first. Doesn't matter. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Such a dorks. Minnie, you put glasses on someone as well. Dorky. Thumbs up.
Yes, I've seen it as well. Yes.
It's only just 7.
Yes.
Everyone, welcome to Derby Museum. Welcome to this new space. You're the first people who have been here since we've redecorated and reopened this space, which is part of the old 19th century museum, which opened originally in 1879. When it opened, this museum was full of things. And many of the things that it was full of were stuffed, or preserved in spirit, or skeletal material, or archaeological objects, a whole host of things mixed together in a really extremely exciting way. And some of those things you'll still see in the museum, and you'll certainly see some of them in the gallery that was opened a few weeks ago, Notice Nature, Feel Joy, which is our new natural history gallery, which you will have walked through to get here. We're really proud of it and we're really pleased with how it worked. But it only worked so well because of some of the people who are involved in it. Not just our team who put it together so creatively and so beautifully, but also the people that we worked with. The many people from Derby, from the local natural history community, but also the creative commissions that we put out. And Jazmine was one of those creative people that we chose. Some people are outside, you're welcome. It gives me great pleasure tonight for Jazmine and welcome Jazmine here because I've seen Jazmine in the museum a few times, but actually most of the things that I've seen of Jazmine has been on social media, looking at what she's been creating for us, but also for other museums and other places that actually you admire and use your work. So it's wonderful to have you here tonight to actually explain a bit more about how you work, your practice, and also to show us some of that. So welcome to Jazmine.
Okay, so I'm going to start. Can you hear me at the back? So I'm going to start by giving a quick talk about the whole process of taxidermy, because birds and mammals and reptiles and everything is all very different. Is anyone actually a taxidermist? Has anyone had a go? A couple of people have had a go. And if you want to ask me any questions at any point during the talk, please put your hand up because it's especially if you've never done it before, it's quite a confusing process at times. So I'm a taxidermist. I call myself an ethical taxidermist because for me, when I started about 9 years ago, I wanted to define why I was different from other taxidermists, and I don't work with anything that's been killed for any reason. So I don't work with anything that's been culled. You know, you get lots of magpies and jays and all of this. Everything I use has been hit by a car, which accidental death, flown into a window, dragged by a cat, or has died in a rescue centre overnight of a natural cause. And I work for artists, so this is a piece I did with an artist in New York. I work for museums, collectors. My youngest client is 7 years old, so it doesn't matter who it is. If someone would like me to taxidermy, they'll come to me and kind of create a piece together to fit their home or their work or their photography, whatever it's going to be for. And this is just some examples of my work. So I'm interested in the whole animal as well. So at the moment, there's quite a trend in anthropomorphic taxidermy. I don't do any anthropomorphic taxidermy. Everything I do is quite boring and naturalistic, basically, and minimalist. This is just to show the size of that bird. It's a tree creeper for Sheffield Museum, and it's a part of, there's 326 specimens, I think, that they've now put on display, which are all specimens that are breeding in the area at the moment. This is another one of their specimens. Parakeet. And this is the fox that's in this museum. So I also do specimens for handling as well, although I would not say you should stroke or touch taxidermy because it doesn't last as long, but this guy is up for hugs. So when I start a project, I'll start talking about mammals first. I meet with the artist or the museum or whoever it is, and we start to talk about what we're going to make, and we think about our reference pictures. So this is a picture of a live rat. So later on I'm going to be working on a juvenile rat, and I want him to be standing up, looking alert. And the best thing to do is to go out and see the specimens, or live animals, sorry, not specimens, running around so that you can understand how they move. When you see a lot of taxidermy, it's very still and often either perfect or very bad, depending on where the taxidermy is and who's done it. But the best realistic thing is obviously the live animal. And then the second best thing you have is the dead animal. So I then take my specimen and take as many photos and measurements of the specimen before I skin it. So this is what I'll be working on later. With small rodents, I defrost them in alcohol because they defrost so quickly. I often get asked how long something can be dead before I work on it. It's got to be pretty much straight away with something of this size. This was dragged in by a cat. And then I remove the skin. Some of these pictures are a bit gory, but I also like to show them because they show actually how clean the process is. So I've skinned this rat. On the right, on this side is the skin, and on that side is the whole body. So I remove the whole skin. People think that it's all about removing the guts and there's going to be blood and I'm going to be disgustingly covered in everything. But actually, if you move your own skin around, you have membrane that covers the whole of your muscular structure. So you have skin, membrane, and then the body itself. So there's no guts. If the guts come out, then you're making incisions in the wrong place. Obviously, a lot of my specimens have been hit by cars, so sometimes there is a bit more blood and a bit more gore, but it's not as kind of disgusting as people perceive it to be. With a mammal, so I'll pass this one around first. So with mammals, you have to tan the skin, so you have to think about tanning it to leather, like your shoes or your handbag. This is a piece of rabbit skin, and if you hold it up to the light, you can see how thin it is. So this is just an example of how fragile it is where I'm working it. And there's a layer of fat that's attached to the skin. So before I pickle the skin, I have to remove all that fat. So this picture is the skin, and then we're peeling away this, and that's called fleshing. So when it's a bigger specimen, I put it over a big wooden beam, and I'll use a knife to cut away the meat that's still on the skin. And then I have to pickle it in an acidic pickle of 1.5 to 2 pH. So I use stuff called safety acid, which is basically a taxidermy branded citric acid. So there's no, you can use formic acid and horrible things like that, but they terrify me, and I have burnt holes in my shoes before, so this is much better. And then once the skin has been pickled, so for something this small, it was only in the pickle for a day. With the fox in the gallery, he was in the pickle for 1 to 2 weeks. So it just depends on the size of the specimen, how long it takes. And then you have to neutralise it using bicarbonate soda in water to bring the pH back up. And then I put my skin in the freezer, ready to use. Once, actually, before I do that, I tan it. So the word tanning comes from the process after pickling, and you put tanning solution on it, which is, I use the taxidermy made tanning stuff. Basically, if you think of pickling as it's stopping all of the molecules around the fur and the body to fix, so you're fixing it, you're stopping the hair from falling out, how you would when you decompose. And then at that point, after pickling, it's all dry and shriveled up and not very nice. And then through the tanning process, you oil it and stretch it. And then if you're making leather for a handbag or a sofa, it would go through lots of drums, constantly moving.
Ask a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Firstly, how did you get into it? Secondly, how did you learn?
Yeah. So I started by volunteering at a museum, the Booth Museum in Brighton. There were a couple of taxidermists that were curators there. Unfortunately now, with museums, there's only 2 in the country that have their taxidermy studios still working. That's the Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh and the Booth Museum in Brighton. And then I taught myself, as well as I did a couple of short courses with taxidermists, and I've basically been to as many studios, museums, and bugged as many people as I could. And when I started, I was quite rare, so having a younger woman doing all this, now I get an email every other day from someone wanting to learn, so it's much more popular. So I think it's, in a way, it's easier to learn with more courses, but it's more difficult to kind of get to go to studios and museums. So I skin my specimen, and then I take as many measurements from the body as possible, and I start to build up my body. I remove the skull from the body, so this is 2 rat heads. On the left is still got the meat, and then meat afterwards. And then I have to glue it all back together. I'll pass these round. So with a mammal specimen, the jaw isn't attached to the rest of the skull, which is why it's quite easy to break our jaws, when we're fighting and stuff. Whereas I have this one, it's very cool, it's a badger skull. They have a ball and socket joint for their jaw, so it's not removable. When I cleaned my skulls, I'll pass these round. I'm having to jump now to a pack because I've not finished this rat, so I glue them back together and I fill them with cotton wool and then cover it in hot glue so they're still very light. When you see a bad piece of taxidermy or an older piece of taxidermy, sometimes the taxidermist has shoved so much clay inside the head it's made it really heavy, and then the head starts to droop down like this. So that's why I fill it with cotton wool. And then I start to build up my body. I use wood wool for my mammals. It's a traditional method with binder. So this is the wood wool. When you spray it with water and scrunch it around a wire frame with cotton, it starts to build up quite a firm structure. I'll pass this around as well. Yeah? Wood wool? Wood wool. Wool, like the jumper, yeah. It's basically the stuff that they put in packaging boxes. And then also we use tow, which is a plant fibre, kind of looks like horsehair. If I pass these around together, this is another rat with its skull attached to the body. I'll explain why I made this shape. And you can just feel how So this is a cat, and I've drawn around the body, and I'm starting to make this torso. So I have a wire running through the whole of the torso, and I'm building up my wood wool around this wire to start to recreate the anatomy of the cat. Does that make sense? And the legs are the same, so there's a wire that runs through, and I build up the legs with the wood wool. I've always got the body on the desk with me while I'm doing this and taking measurements, because basically, if you think of a glove that's going to perfectly fit your hand, if you remove the glove and then put it on someone else's hand, it might not fit. So the idea is if you recreate the exact proportions for the skin, it should just slot perfectly onto this form and fit. With the tails, on smaller mammals, I just carry on with the binder. On larger mammals, I cast the tails. So the fox in the gallery there, his tail is made from casting in silicone, and then the actual tail is hot glue. It's been pumped into the silicone with a wire running through it. So it's flexible, and I can put it into whatever shape I like. And then I put the skull onto the body. The wire from the neck of the body I've made goes into the brain cavity of the skull, and I fix it in there with basically a car body filler, a 2-part resin, really strong stuff. And then I start to articulate the body and put the legs, and this is the beginnings of my cat. This cat was died of sickness. It was very thin, so its spine was quite prominent underneath. And I made the spine using binder up on the toe, because I knew the first thing it's for an artist. The first thing he would do is going to stroke its back, although I told him not to touch it, so it would eventually get greasy and things. But it was the first thing he did, and he touched it and he just went, wow. And then I put clay inside the eye sockets on the skull, and using the measurements I took earlier of the body, I put the eyes back into the skull. Now these eyes were acrylic eyes. Some people assume that I use the same eyes or I fix the eyes. All my eyes are hand painted by an eye specialist. They're shipped over from Germany or America mostly. And for larger mammals, the fox in the gallery, he's got a 2-part resin, which isn't this stuff, because the one in the gallery has to be as strong as possible, because he's going to be constantly touched. But normally I use a fiberglass resin, which is slightly see-through, so it has that pink kind of light shining through thing that mammals' ears have. And I have to sculpt it before the skin goes on the body, so I put the 2-part resin in, sculpt it to the right shape. So if it was an angry cat, I'd have to be looking at images and get the ears lying flat on its head. But this was a relaxed cat, so this is how the ear looked. And then this dries rock solid. And then I start to put my skin onto my form. Now underneath this skin, obviously it looks like this at first. It's just, as I said, it's the glove. And I build the shape of the mouth and the eyes and the nose underneath using clay. I use critter clay, which is a taxidermy clay. You can come and see it. The reason I use that is because other air-drying clays actually shrink loads, and this one's got a very low shrinkage. But it's even better if you use the 2-part resin epoxy sculpt, because that doesn't shrink really at all. So the fox in the gallery, the whole of his face is epoxy sculpt, not clay. And then I sew it up. And on my mammals, I paint the whole of the skin with a glue it's called the one I use is Buckeye skin paste. It's basically a taxidermy glue, and it has like moth repellent stuff in it, and it sticks the skin to the form. And then I sew it up. So this is me sewing the tail up. Sew up the back. Because cats have all of that extra, they have all that funny extra skin, don't they, where they fold their legs inside themselves. The anatomy of the cat, when you have the cat body, but then actually the amount of fat that was still on the skin has to be replaced. That makes sense. So I've rebuilt the body, and it's so much smaller than all of this extra fat. So when I'm working on a cat like this, I like to put in extra wood ball loose and quite finely cut up so that I can. That's why there's all this wispy bit on the back, so I can shape that outer strange shape. And this is him drying. So if you notice his nose is going black, so with skin, this is why humans wouldn't be very nice as taxidermy specimens. With skin, it dries either like a dark yellow or a black, or the same with birds around their eyes and their feet and their beaks. All of the colour fades. So later, I'd have to go back to this cat and repaint the nose, and that's why you get some very bad taxidermy. So inside the ears goes darker orangey as well. That's why you get taxidermy with really pink ears and horrible red lips and things like that. That's why that mistake's been made. It's necessary. So the reason I like this bind-up method It's because it can be adapted to any shape. So this was a sculpture that an artist wanted me to make of this cat draped over a stone. So we put the cat on the stone, and then we removed the skin, we put the cat back in exactly the same place, and then we built our body to exactly the same shapes and proportions, had lots of photographs, and then we built the skin on. This is him in the gallery. And it can also be adapted to any size. So this is what's inside that tiny weasel on the desk there. Now, when I want to do something that's much stronger, so with the fox, he's going to be touched by hundreds of people and children and everything, I've used a foam form. It's a commercial form, so someone else has made this fox body. If you're starting taxidermy, a lot of people find it much easier just to buy these. I don't like them because every animal is a different size. So with this one, I had to carve the legs almost completely different shape. And also his skull, his head was the wrong size, so I had to use the actual fox's skull. But I'll pass this around. People see these forms and they wonder what they're made from and how they feel. So this is the head of the fox in the gallery. And with this, it's the same process, but there's a lot more glue involved and pulling and stretching and sticking it to this very, very strong and hard form. So this is the buckeye paste, and we're putting the skin on, putting the eyes in place. This is him finished. Now, birds are very different. They don't require any pickling or tanning, and they're very, very fragile. So I'll pass this round. This is an example of it's a great spotted woodpecker. And if you hold this up to the light, you get the tap and feel. I've had to varnish it because it's so fragile. When you work on a small bird like this, it's a bit like a wet cigarette paper. So you can rip it completely in half very easily. This also has the feather tracks on it, which you might want to look at, and I'll explain in a bit. So these are my birds that are in the gallery here, one of which is like this guy, showing what's inside my taxidermy, and then the other is obviously just the song thrush of his own. So I'll pass this.
Sorry, is that what I mean when they show the parts of it?
No. Yeah, I went to a talk with a taxidermist who made one of these called Carl Church, and then I went home and made it, and it turns out that it's actually very useful for people to use. And I sent a picture of this guy to Angela and the team, and they loved it. So that's why he's here. So it's the same with the birds. I have to think about my reference picture. So I have to know what I'm going to do before I start, working on this bird. So I can take images of it in the correct shape and things like that. And I skin my specimen. Now with birds, you'll see on this pigeon, with the mammals, obviously there's nothing inside attached to the skin apart from the skull, which I then put back in later. With the birds, because their anatomy is kind of too attached to the skin, so the legs come through the skin, and the wing feathers are all actually attached directly to the bone. You can't remove all of the bones. Same with the beaks, the bill comes through the skin. So attached to the skin is the skull, the bones all the way up to here on the arm. The legs, the bones are all up to the knee, and then all of this is removed. So this is my skin, still attached to the skull, and then my bird body. So this is like one of the ugliest pictures I have. This is a crossed heel. Now with birds, you assume that they're feathery all over, but they're not. They just have feathers in tracks on their body. I think it's 5 tracks. They have a couple that run down the front, one that goes down the back of their heads all the way to their bottoms, and then I think a couple on their wings and their legs. And so this is a tawny owl, and you can see its feather tracks very clearly here. So it only has feathers in these lines, and then the rest of its body is completely bald. So the whole of its shape is just through these few feathers that sit on its body like that. Apart from its head, the head is completely, actually no, the crown, but around the face is completely feathery. But anyway, on the inside of these feather tracks, like on the woodpecker that's sent round, you have fat that lies on the quills here. With taxidermy that's not been cleaned properly or has not been attended to very well, sometimes you see the feathers all sticking up in a funny place, and it's often because the feather tracks might still have a bit of fat on the inside, and so when the feathers dry, they dry with the fat, and so the feathers just want to stick up. Doesn't matter what you do, they're gonna, on the inside, it makes sense, the quills are all gonna be pulled tight together, and then you get this funny shoulder pads and things like that. So all of that has to be removed. And I clean that just using tweezers or a wire brush, depending on the size of the bird. And then I wash the skin. And I just use fairy liquid, which I know some conservationists don't like, but it's very good. It makes the feathers very shiny. And then I have to dry it. So with my bird skins, I fill them completely with wet tissue so that I'll pass that around actually, that shows the feather tracks as well. So that you want the inside of the skin to stay wet, but you want the feathers to dry. So this is me filling it with tissue. This is a juvenile herring gull that shows the feathers drying. So at this point it looks awful, and you think, oh, what have I done? I've ruined all that work I've done, it looks horrendous. And then you dry it, and it looks amazing. So if you don't wash the feathers, you'll get nasty bloody bits and fatty bits and discolouring. So in my opinion, this is one of the most important stages of the whole thing. If you don't do the cleaning and the drying properly, your specimen will look greasy and a bit sad. And also with seabirds, you can't skin the wing on the inside all the way down. It's because of the anatomy of the bones in their wings. They have these very, very long bones. And you have to remove all of the muscle within the wing from the outside. So you make an incision on the inside of the wing, clean all of the muscle out, fill it with some wood wool, and then sew it up. And then I have to make my body. So I've cleaned and washed my skin, and I've put that in the freezer. With birds, I often work over 3 days. So I'll do some skinning on one day, and then the next day I'll do some body making, and then the next day I'll mount a bird in the morning, might do something else in the afternoon. You can do birds in a whole day. Some people do like 5 birds in a day. They're not going to be very good. They'll be really stressed and all of that. I find the good thing about taxidermy, as long as you get to a certain stage, you can put it back in the freezer, you can do it the next day, and it can become more of an enjoyable, less stressful process. For anyone who's been learning and trying, it can be quite difficult. So with my bird bodies, I don't do bind up on my bird bodies, I make balsa wood bodies. So I take measurements from the torso, and using 3 pieces of balsa wood, I build up my form. So you've seen the pigeon, but I'll pass this around. This is the jay. And I start to carve the shape. The difference between, so a lot of people also carve their mammal bodies. Like I create mine with the wood wool, so it makes it flexible and I can make it whatever shape is desirable. A lot of people do carving. I don't like that because I find, obviously I use the hard form for the fox in the gallery. I find that mammals are much more flexible. We move around, we do weird things, we sit in odd positions. Birds do this as well, but their actual body does not move very much. It doesn't bend sideways, it doesn't do any of that. All of the bones inside the bird are kind of fused together to make this solid shape inside, which is why carving the shape is much easier. And I glue the pieces of wood together, and then I carve my shape. This is to allow the neck comes from between their shoulders, down and up, and then in this gap they have their crop, so they hold their food in there, and the neck folds in and comes out into the space. When I was learning, you don't really think about this, and then you have this neck which is like 3 times too long, and especially when you do a duck, and it's like, where does it go? And it goes in this space.
So talking about like long necks and things which are obviously a bit different,
Yeah.
what sort of requests have you had which are really big out there? In terms of commissioning work?
I don't really do anything that's like crazy out there.
Right. Do people not ask them?
Yeah, of course. I give them to other people that do these things out there. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I get loads of requests like my hamster died. Can you dress up like a steampunk person? So that's just standard. I get that a lot, but then I know someone that does that, so I say I don't, but they do, and I don't want to upset anybody.
People do it in crowd taxidermy.
They do, exactly, yeah. So all of my stuff, so I became a taxidermist because I want to show animals as these beautiful, very light things, and I'm interested in anatomy and trying to get it right, but a lot of people are interested in the other type of taxidermy, and that's fine, I don't mind, them doing that, but I just do a different type, so, yeah. So I guess doing something like a dead animal is probably the most, having a flop over something is like the most kind of thing, edgy thing I might do. I do some collaborations with artists where we put them in slightly different poses, but it never goes, too anthropomorphic. And I don't do any bits of things, so if I have a piece which is if I find an animal which is only good enough for the wings, I'll give it to someone that makes hats and uses wings. And I try and make sure everything gets used, but I don't use it. And then I attach the neck. The neck's just cotton wool with a wire running through, with cotton thread wrapped around it. At the same time, I'm always using my measurements and checking the body, and making sure that all of these are kind of the right size. This is me carving the tail into the form. And then I kind of have my, I don't know what, that's the crocodile ready.
Do you ever make animals?
No. No, I don't do anything fun. No. Yeah, people get disappointed, but no. Yeah, it's not, I'm just not interested in that really. And sometimes I find a lot of those things offensive, I guess. It's just like,
Personally, I think there's more of an art to not doing anything different with it and making it look just simple in real life. It speaks to you a lot more, and I think there's a lot more skill personally involved in.
thank you. It's interesting. I did a talk for NATSCA, some museum people will know from NATSCA. And there was a museum that did a test, and they put out one of their pictures, which was an awful piece of taxidermy. It was really funny, like really bad. And then this amazing bird, like the best piece of taxidermy they had. Put them both out. The good one got like 2-3 tweets or something, and the bad one went viral. And it's just, people want to laugh at animals, and they want to find them funny, and unfortunately that's, so, yeah. And then I put the skull that's still attached to the skin onto the head, onto the neck of my body, the same as I do with mammals, using car body filler, a 2-part resin. And then using my measurements I've taken of its head, I put the acrylic eyes in. So these are just a black ball. This is a cockatiel, so I just have eyes. And then I start to pull the skin over and start to sculpt the face. Again, there's clay in the eye socket, so when I pull this over, using water around the skin, I can move the skin around to have the right expression. So with the bad taxidermy, you can give them bad eyebrows and all that. And then the wings and the legs are bound together with either cotton wool or more of the wood wool, as you can see on the pigeon. And then I put these wires into my form. And then I start to articulate the body. At this point as well, it always looks awful. On the inside of my birds, so they used to use arsenic soap, which would poison moths and insects, and so there's nothing's going to rot in this specimen. But if an insect gets in there and wants to eat it, it's going to be completely gone, quickly. So as I can't use arsenic soap, obviously, I have to make my own paste, which is a Roland Award recipe minus the arsenic. So it has cloves and things that smell nice to me but bad to moths. And I paint the whole of the bird skin with this. Supposedly it's very good. Some of my things have still been eaten. So with modern taxidermy, if you're buying it or you collect it, I recommend cases because we can't put poison in them, so they can be got by the mouse. Then I sew it up, and I start to bend them around into the right place. With birds, all of the feathers sit in line on these feather tracks, so you have to, put them all into the right place. It's not just a case of skins on, feathers are going to be in the right place. So you have to slot them all into their correct alignment and bend the wings into the correct position. And then to stop, so the feather tracks are all clean on the inside, but that doesn't mean that the feathers aren't going to want to dry in a bizarre position. So I use cotton thread wrapped around, and sometimes I pin bits of card onto the body. And while this is drying, I'll be looking after it for a couple of weeks, tweaking it, pushing feathers down, so as it dries, it doesn't dry into a bizarre position. So you often see foxes and things, and their eyes are like this, and their mouth like right out here. And it's just because as it's dried, it's not been pushed and shaped and looked after. If I do a piece of taxidermy and go away for a weekend, I come back and it looks horrible. It's just what happens. You have to keep working on it after this. This is him finished. I'm aware his toes, one of his toes is in the wrong place, but I know this. So this is the mallard duckling, and so the piece of taxidermy that's dried, and it just shows how all the coloration has gone from the skin. So as I was saying on the cat, the nose and ears. So with these, I have to paint them back in, and I use a taxidermy branded paint, which is called wildlife paint, and it's literally just it's an airbrushing paint. I don't use the airbrush, but it's slightly opaque, so you can build up the colours, and it's not just slapped on, red or brown. This is him finished. As well, people often think that taxidermists, they just get to have fun doing all of these animals, and there's actually quite a lot of paperwork that I'm legally required to do. So each of my specimens has a log sheet. So if DEFRA or Animal Health and the governing bodies that kind of look after all of this area want to come around and they want to know exactly where this weasel or this rat is from, they should have a number on them, and then I have a piece of paper and it has a signature of the person that gave it to me or found it. It has how it's died. All of this is to protect animals in the wild from being killed unlawfully, things like that. Also, there are some specimens that have more laws around them, so owls, bats, otters, things like this. Anything listed under CITES, so that's all of the birds of prey, things like that, is an Article 10 license. And every single one of those needs one of those licenses for me to work on them. There are other specimens which, like bats and otters and things like that, you either can't work on them at all unless it's through an institution like a museum or a school or a university, and it's illegal to work on them otherwise for a commercial gain. And there are some specimens that you can't even have in your freezer unless you're registered with the Guild of Taxidermists. So if you have these things in your freezer and you're a bit worried, please send me an email and I can try and give you some advice. Otters, they're registered under something called a general license. So a normal member of the public, oh look, there's a dead otter, they pick up their otter and they put it in a bin or by the side of the road. That's essentially a legal act for them to even touch it, which is ridiculous. But for me, I'm issued with a general license because I'm part of the Guild of Taxidermists, and after I think 1 year, you become issued automatically with this license. I'm sure there are other ways, conservation studios, people like that have these general licenses, and then I am allowed to pick it up and put it in the freezer, but I'm not allowed to turn it into taxidermy until I get another license from an institution that says they want it for educational purposes. So, there's a few things out there. The Guild of Taxidermists, if you're interested in taxidermy, I have a few flyers at the front, and I also edit their annual magazine, so there's a couple there if you want to have a read. It's a very traditional group of people. As someone, I call myself an ethical taxidermist and all this, there are obviously people in the Guild which are hunters and come from a completely different direction. The Guild of Taxidermists are brilliant because if I didn't have this group of people they're basically they're my workforce, they're my friends, they're people I can talk to, get advice. And they also offer legal advice and protection, things like this. This is one of our conferences where we do a competition where everyone gets sent the same image, then we all have to try and make a piece of taxidermy, and then it's anonymous, and then it's group judged as to who's done the best piece to be photographed. And I mean, where do you get to do something like that? So until I joined the Guild of Taxidermists, I kind of felt very alone, and I learned a lot more when I started to go to the conferences and things like that. So I highly recommend. It's also, there's no qualification recognised in this country, so you can't go to university, you can't get an apprenticeship and then get a qualification. To be a taxidermist recognised in this country, you have to enter competitions within the Guild of Taxidermists and earn credits. When you've earned enough credits, you can become a master taxidermist, and then all of this. And that's the only thing that is technically recognised here. I haven't actually earned a credit yet, so that kind of shows how good you have to be if you think my stuff is good. You have to be incredible to be able to be a master taxidermist in this country, and there aren't that many of them. But he got third place, and he won against a porpoise and a bear, so that's amazing. Yeah, this is the magazine. And I like to end my talks on this photograph. Can anyone guess what that is? Really, what's that? Anybody? No, it's nothing that exotic. It's a cat. Yeah, and I like to show it because it looks like a frail human hand. And I think that when we look at taxidermy in museums and just in general, sometimes when we're working on it, we forget that these are, sometimes living, breathing things, and we see them as these beautiful objects which we can collect and look at and learn from. But I just like to remind people that underneath all of that is still, someone who's there. And when I've done loads of cats now since this one, but when I first did this, I found that amazing. And that's it. I'm going to do some work now, but please just ask me anything you want while I'm working about the talk. Yeah.
So, how much was it trial and error? I was seeing that for about 9 years now, so it's less than how much of it is experimentation?
My methods are kind of built from loads of talks and other taxidermists and books I've read. So every taxidermist kind of has their own choices. So some people hate taking measurements. I think that measurements, if I didn't have measurements, I'd be rubbish. Some people, take measurements to an extreme. I know someone that's got those goggles that they wear when they do brain surgery, and he 3D scans the bodies, prints them out, but then makes them anyway. So there are people that take that to an extreme. And I think that trial and error, when you're learning, it's just really hard, because the first thing is you've got this thing, and then you've got to get this really thin substance off of this thing. And once you can get past that, that's good. But it kind of took me about 4 years before I realised that I wasn't using my brain when I was working and my hands were just doing it. Does that make sense? And I still make mistakes, and it's really difficult. You have a time limit with this stuff. Yeah.
She's also talking about unconscious competence there. Do you build a relationship with them? Do they talk to you? They kind of tell you this is what?
No.
No.
Not like, you mean like when someone's carving stone or something?
Almost, yeah.
Actually, no, it kind of does that. So say I'm working on something and a lot of the things I use are damaged. So if it's a bird and it's only got one leg or no legs, maybe I'll do it flying in a way you can't see the legs. And that obviously is that determining that. But I mean, I don't collect taxidermy. I don't have loads of this stuff around me or anything like that. And people often ask if I name them and things. I don't do. I'm really boring. I just really like doing it. So yeah. But no, yeah. If anyone wants to name things, I'm always up for it. So he doesn't have a name, so it's always good. Well, America's a big one, but hunting taxidermy, there's not much. Well, there is other stuff, but there's a big hunting culture. I'd say that's probably the biggest, but then that country's biggest. So Germany's got a really big taxidermy community, really amazing taxidermists in Germany. The laws over there are quite different now. I think that sometimes determines things. So in Germany, if you want to pick up a dead bird, you need to take it to a police station and get a piece of paper that's, all of this stuff. So in England, it's really popular now, and it's so easy for us legally now. We're very lucky. Obviously, animals are protected, but, it's kind of, for me, it's good. I've worked with a kangaroo, some big dogs. I don't really like doing the big stuff, but I like doing anything, but I'm much more interested in the smaller stuff. So after I'll work on a big dog or something like that, my whole body hurts. It's a completely different experience. Yeah. Wiring's heavy duty, the building structure, it's got to be really strong. The skin itself is really heavy, and I've worked with things which are like 12 stone, over 12 stone, and and I'm not 12 stone. So yeah, it's difficult turning things like that over, and yeah, it's not easy.
What was your background before doing taxidermy? I would assume
Yeah. I did a sculpture degree in Brighton. Yeah, and then I left my degree and I wanted to get a job, and I thought it'd be really clever to do this, and it was a really bad choice because it took just as long as doing the sculpture degree before I could even do it. So it was a good choice. I'm very happy, but it wasn't an easy choice.
You kind of touched on it a little bit earlier about the kind of narrative that comes along with the animals. But are there any particular narratives that you think actually that's really interesting? So the stories beyond the animals that people are telling you.
Yeah, you mean the animals themselves? Yeah, the stories. So the two birds that are in the gallery, I think those ones. Maybe I was working with two song thrushes at the same time. Two I've got at home definitely flew into the same window at the same time, and things like that. Such a horrible romantic, end. Often when people give me things, people find me on the internet and give me birds that have been in their freezers, and they'll give me a whole story. So they'll watch this woodpecker, and they've seen the woodpecker build its nest with its partner, and then it's flown into their window and died, and they're really upset. So all of that's, really important. And the other thing about taxidermy, when you're buying it or getting a commission, it's always so important just to ask, where's it come from? Obviously, a lot of older pieces may have been killed, or you just don't know. And I do think that story is really, of the animal's life is important and interesting. And I've been given a baby lamb before, which was given to me by a little girl, and it had a jumper knitted for it. And she gave it to me and said, I want you to look after it. So it's just really nice. Yeah.
Very time consuming. So the cost of these, weasel for pots or gold crest or buzzard, what's the cost involved?
How much I charge? I don't like giving my prices in front of all of these people because I'm also on the internet. But you can come and ask me. But I mean, it depends what the job is as well. I'm not expensive, but I'm not cheap. I think that if you're buying taxidermy, you should pay a bit more for it because you'll get a better piece. You know, if someone's going to pay 20 quid for something, they're going to get 20 quid's worth. And the size does make a difference. So, but then, I mean, a crow, for instance, would take me, I would spend as much time on that as I would a goldfinch, but a pheasant, I would spend much longer on because they have so much fat. So all of the prices are normally determined by this. Yeah. Whereas,
I guess that processing at times, you know, you've got a lot of time. How many do you have on the go in one time usually?
so many, yeah, so many. I find it really difficult just to do one and finish it because apart from the fact that I'm busy, so I have to pop to Derby and do a talk like this and things like that. I can't have something half made. But I think I can't even think how many things I'm working on at the moment, to be honest. Because often I'll skin something and then I'll come back to it like a month later. I work in my house with my partner. We have a room which is our shared studio, and we have a shed, and another room which has stock and freezers and things. I work in a quite small space actually, but I have to be very tidy. So when photographers and things come because they want to take pictures of a studio, taxidermy studio, and they expect to see heads and things everywhere. And a lot of taxidermy studios are like that, but mine's really, relatively boring compared. You can do it, anyone can be a taxidermist, and you can do it anywhere. A lot of people do it in their kitchen because they then eat the bodies and things like that. So you don't need loads of space or loads of tools either.
What's been your biggest professional challenge?
Oh, my biggest professional challenge? That's a really hard one.
Maybe that question.
Yeah, I guess when you get given a job and you say, oh yeah, I'll do that, that'll be great, definitely, and then this animal dies like the next day, and then you're delivered with this huge thing, and you're all on your own. And that's whenever that kind of thing happens, and I have to think, I can do this, I can do it, it's fine, and I can, and it's absolutely fine. But often, anything that I get on my desk, if it's really tiny, I'm working on some gold crests at the moment, and you just think, I'm just going to ruin that. How am I going to do that? But then it's fine. So I think it's just the whole of my profession, I would say, for me, is quite difficult. And my partner, who's not here, would definitely testify for the fact that I get quite stressed about the pieces and things like that. So, yeah. There's never been something where I've gone, this is that moment. Yeah. I'm sure it will happen. I'm going to put the eyes onto this skull, this tiny little, you can kind of see him, tiny little rat. And I'm going to start to put the skin on. So these are just acrylic balls, the eyes, because rats just have black eyes. They don't really have the definition of a pupil that you can see without looking really close.
you talk us through what you're doing?
Sure. So I've just put some of the 2-part resin into the eye sockets, and I've just started to place the acrylic eyes into the sockets, and I'm just checking that I've got my measurements right, so that when I put my skin onto the skull, it should fit perfectly.
How many measurements would you have to take?
You can come and see my measurement sheet if you want. So, my really technical drawing. This is measurements of his head, and then on the other side I have measurements of his body and his legs. And then when I made the body at home, I have the body on the table as well, so I hold it up against it the whole time and just check that it's right.
This rat's just a demonstration piece, or is it testing some more?
He's just for now a demonstration piece, and then I'll make him a case, and he might go to an exhibition or something. Yeah. No, I find it too stressful to do actual commissions in front of people, just in case they go wrong. And tomorrow for Museums at Night, we're going to, me and the rat are going to London to carry on building him up, so in the Grant Museum. So yeah, the reason he's so small is I came by train as well, so normally I'd do a pheasant or something where people could, something bigger, but obviously that's really difficult for me with all the stuff to transport. Big thing on the train, and I get asked enough questions anyway, so. On the birds? Yeah, that's a balsa. Who's asked me the question? Yeah, the birds are balsa wood, so I buy it in sheets, and then I cut the shapes out. So 1 for the whole body, and then 2 for the 2 breasts, and then I stick it. Yeah, 2 for 2, and then I stick it all together. If you want to see more, you a taxidermist? Did you? On my social media sites, so all the guys here know, because they generally like and see everything, how I've been making things. I always post pictures of the processes and things if you are interested in seeing a bit more about how they're made. So yeah. I hate polyurethane foam, the blue stuff. If you break it, so you're mounting something up and it's nearly finished, and then you put a leg in, it snaps in half, you have to clamp it together with wood glue, yeah. So, but then I've got this thing that's going to dry and not, so if you super glue it, obviously it just disintegrates. I use a scalpel and I use sandpaper and a saw, so easy. Yeah, it's really nice, really soft. Just put a little bit more of this epoxy around the eye, so that when I put the eyelids on, I can shape them. Do you want to come and get a bit of this epoxy so you can feel what it feels like? Because it's going to go off so you can make it into a shape. Do you get that electric shock?
Yeah, I'm always going to keep static shock. I've got too much hair.
Yeah, that's this.
Oh, that's great, isn't it?
It's really good, and it doesn't shrink, supposedly.
And then there's the critical as well, which just comes wrapped up with it.
Yeah. There is, I can give, I buy all my things from a taxidermy supplier in the UK, and he sells all of these things.
Yeah.
So if you want his details, just ask me afterwards. No worries. 3 hours. And then you can drill into it afterwards. So I'm then going to put some clay around his face. Can you kind of see it? If anyone's got any more questions, I'll try and answer. So I don't do conservation, but from friends that do, they recommend brushing it with a brush to try and get all the dust out. If it's really dirty, they would use some ethanol on a cotton bud or something and try and wipe it away. The good thing about alcohol is obviously it dries quicker, apart from it being really flammable, so you have to be very careful. If it's really bad, I guess you could wash it, but it would be really dangerous for not dangerous, but really, it could really upset the skin underneath. If an old piece if the skin gets wet, so if you get humidity, it can obviously go mouldy or fall apart, things like that. Yeah, you've obviously got something that needs clean. Yeah. Yeah, that's not good. I recommend asking museum people, people that look after this stuff. That's why I don't like having a collection so much, because it's another worry.
I'm just thinking, do you treat reptiles?
Yes, so I don't do reptiles. I've got some in my freezer. The difference is there's a lot more casting and painting involved. So the skin's going to fade, so all of that wonderful colour you get in snakes, it's all going to disappear. So you have to be very good at painting. And most new pieces now are cast and then painted. So it's kind of a completely different ball game, It's kind of like Warhammer. Is it Warhammer? Yeah, Warhammer taxidermy. You've got to be really good and accurate. You need to know your specimens really well. But yeah, there are people that do use the skin, fixing it in formaldehyde solutions and things like that, and then making the body and putting the skin on, which is also fine. But if you've got to paint it anyway, you get some shrinkage and. So this is his skin. This has been pickled and tanned already. And it's got some staining on the inside from where he got bit by the cat, but it's not come through onto the fur, which is good. So on something this small, I just use a little bit of, if I was doing something, not today, if I was doing something and I wanted it to be amazing, I would use the 2-part resin in the ears, because it is slightly more see-through. But because this has got to last for 2 days with me working on it, I'm just going to use clay, because I can keep working on that for days and days and it won't go off. If you keep it wet, it can take ages. It can take a week or longer, and it's quite good. Pardon? Are there any good examples? All right. So I don't find them really weird, but that's obviously just because I've been using them for so long. But I mean, when I realised that critter clay was called, it sounds really stupid, but when you realise, oh yeah, it's like, I can't think of any others. They're the best ones. I mean, there's so many things that I've learned about over the years. So there's, have you heard of Mod Podge? Yeah, it's a glue. And I went to a talk by a German taxidermist, and he was talking about the Mod Podge for ages, and I thought it was this amazing material called Mod Podge, and I was asking him to translate what it was, and he just kept saying it's the Mod Podge, like this, and he uses it to build up dewdrops on a deer's nose, and it just looks amazing. It looks like real water has just landed, but it's just glue, so. No, not always. It is difficult. Yeah. Also, I find with the mammal skins, this has been tanned. I'm not 100% sure how good it is to get tan on yourself, because when I do work on a skin like this, barehanded, my hands do feel a bit strange and waxy afterwards sometimes. But birds and things, smaller birds, you just can't use gloves. It's fiddly. Well, I share my studio with my partner who likes music, and I try and enjoy it. The best piece of advice I ever got from another taxidermist was that you should, this was when my taxidermy went like from okay, like I was finding it difficult to much better, and I was enjoying it, was that you need to be calm and relaxed, and if you're stressed, just go and have a cup of tea. And I mean, I still get very stressed, but it was a very good piece of advice. So loud music and stuff does not make for brilliant taxidermy. But I listen to the radio a lot. I mean, everything on Radio 4 I've heard pretty much, just in the background. If it's really loud and stressful, yeah, I can't do anything delicate in that situation. So I have to plan. So if there's, if there's going to be someone else there or something like that, I have to plan my jobs differently. For those that have done taxidermy, I can't remember who it was now. You've done some, haven't you? Have you done mammals or birds or both? Birds.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah. 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 If you keep water on them while they're drying, they're just fine. Just keep pushing it, and it dries much slower.
I think it's where I didn't want to play around the eyes, so they tried on the skin to pull back and just kind of see the glass eye.
Yeah. I've done that. Okay. I think the best way around of doing it. Anyone got any other questions?
You always want to know, do you sometimes collaborate with other taxidermists and on the
I'd love to have more people involved. I get the studio I have isn't big enough. And I have done work in museums, like voluntary work doing cabinet skins and things like that, and that's always very fun. And if I was ever to do something too big, I'd get help in, but generally I work on my own. My partner does help as well. The cat in America on the stone, we did 2 cats, and he came and he did all the legs. So he made all the legs, my boyfriend. But he's a sculptor, so he's kind of, that way he's an artist and he does sculptural things as well. So apart from that, no. But I get, as I say, every other day asked for, you know, people are so interested in taxidermy now and they want to learn. So there's loads of people that want to be assistants and help and things. If I have more space, I'd love to have a bigger studio. Gold crests were on my wish list, but I'm working on that at the moment. I'd love to do a horse. I mean, but if I'd have to be given a, you know, that would have to be a commission. I can't just do that for fun. I like everything that I get given is really amazing. All animals. Yeah, but my favourites are the smaller birds. Basically, are my thing.
Pets, what's the percentage of your workload is?
Very low. I don't do pets unless. So every case is based on that person. I would never do a pet kind of in life. So I'd never do a pet sitting up looking at someone. If I was to mount a pet, it would have to be sleeping or something like that. To get the expression or the eye colour or all of these things correct, I think is too much for me. You know, too difficult for the person. I'll do pelts for people that want to have the skin to either, you know, whatever reason, to go with them when they die, things like that. Yeah, so I haven't done many pets. No. This year I've done quite a few things for museums. Last year it was artists. I did so many cats for artists, different artists. It was really trendy for some reason. The year before, I think it was probably just collectors and people that wanted things in their homes. It depends. Yeah. I'm just putting some clay in the feet.
Taxidermy become a lot more popular recently. What do you think the reason is?
I think that in the 80s there was the big thing with lots of museums. Well, taxidermy was hated in the 80s. All the laws changed. Lots of museums mysteriously lost lots of their specimens. And taxidermy was taken off display. And I think that people of my generation, when we were growing up, I think, you know, it was a bit more mysterious. I don't know. It's kind of maybe your grandparents would have something hidden under the stairs or something like that. And I don't know whether it's got so popular in the creative, you know, arena because of that partly. It's like a new thing, and lots of artists have been using it, which makes it trendy. It's craft-based rather than, well, I see it as a craft-based thing rather than maybe an art thing. So craft's really trendy. I mean, it's trendy to make cakes, and so maybe it's like that. I'm not so sure though. When I started and I went to my first conference, there was, I think, 5 girls there at the Gilded Taxidermy conference, and they took a picture of us because we were so rare. And now it's like more than 50%, I think, are women. So on the, like, all the new generation coming in and just really wanting to learn. Yeah, they've done it in America. Oh my god, there, yeah. I know. I got approached for one over here actually to be on the panel, and I was a bit, you know, oh really? And but then they didn't go ahead with it because they did it in America, and it was like each artist was given a theme, and then they had to go away and make a piece of taxidermy on that theme. So it might be like happiness or something.
You said artists and cats. What did you mean? Cats
What do I mean by?
yeah, you said cats and artists and cats were popular.
They were last year.
Is that just they wanted cats as an object or to paint?
I did them for sculptures. So they were elements in people's sculptures. But I had friends that were artists that were using cats last year. I mean, I don't know why it happened. I guess you get trends like that and people are slightly unconscious. I do pieces for photographers that want things to stay still. But mostly when I work for artists, it's for their... Actually, I do things for people to draw as well, that's true. But a lot for an element in their work. Yeah, there's a tiny bit of alcohol in there as well to stop any bacteria. But it's just water. If with something this small, you've got to keep it, well actually with anything, you've got to keep it moist. When it dries up, that's when you can get it to split or something like that. And I'm just pushing the clay into the feet. It's a pretty slow process.
So that time scale, obviously, is your commission in flexibility, but waiting list of months or what's the...
I do have a long waiting list, but then if something came in that needed to be done straight away, and someone else wouldn't mind waiting, then I have to move things around. Deadlines are good because it means that I have to work to a deadline. Unfortunately, because I am so busy, sometimes I'm quite late, you know, with private clients and things, which I don't like, but...
So yeah, like,
Pardon?
it's only 3 hours in the day.
Exactly, I know. So I've put clay in his feet for now. You can see his, I don't know if you can see. They're starting to look a bit like rat feet again. And then I'm going to start to thread them up. So I'm just pushing the wires in through the legs on the skin and out through the feet.
May I ask a question?
No, yeah, no, of course, yeah.
Do you ever face any criticism of friends or family? Like they don't understand, because when I started doing it, I got a lot of nasty comments from family.
Yeah.
Regardless of my explanation.
Yeah, yeah. I've been really lucky. I think, I mean, I have had, like, you know, horrible comments, of course, but I think that anyone kind of doing anything often gets, you know, stupid comments sometimes. Yeah, so I think that, I mean, that's, you know, when I'm on the train and I've got this big toolbox and people are asking me, oh, what's in there? And I have to judge whether I'm going to say, well, I'm a taxidermist and it's my tools, or I say, oh, I'm just a technician and I'm going to do some work, or, you know, something like that. But to be honest, generally, most people are just interested. I think that if you've had it from your family, you know, maybe because they're closer to you in a way, they feel they can be more honest, but members of the public that just come up to me and talk to me of all ages just go, oh, I've never met one of those. And, you know, I had my hair cut the other day and I said, I'm a taxidermist, and they'd never cut, you know, and they were interested, they'd never cut taxidermist hair, and I've had doctor's appointments, and the whole appointment's been about this stuff. And I was like, well, come on, that's, you know, I think that if you say it with confidence and you obviously love the animals, which if you're a good taxidermist, you have to love the animals, otherwise you wouldn't understand what they look like, how they move. Wouldn't have any respect, and that's why you do get some stuff which isn't so good in some cases. But I think, you know, if you're confident that you're doing it for a good, you know, for what you see as a good reason, then
I think some people see it as morbid somehow, even though it isn't.
kind of, I think it kind of is. Like,
I never really thought it was.
yeah, I think that, you know, I've loved watching that fox in the gallery here, because you watch it and kids have been kissing it and hugging it and lying on it, and, you know, and that, you know, that love of those animals, it's not, you know, they've not been taught yet to think it's gross, or, you know, the parents of those kids are obviously very good, they come to this museum, they're used to dead animals. It's the ones which are, oh, look, don't touch that, things like that. It's a difficult attitude to, you know, get rid of, but yeah, I think that a lot of people do get some bad comments, especially on social media, but you just have to be confident about what you're doing. And yeah. So both of his feet now threaded through on his legs. I'm going to thread his tail through. So something like this, I would work over 3 days as well, and it takes me a while to mount it up. And I normally always start doing this process first thing in the morning, which is my best part of the day, not at 7 in the evening with a group of people. But I'm just putting some glue on the tail so that when I thread the skin on it, kind of sets nicely. This is the Buckeye paste, the taxidermy glue.
Do you want showing the TikTok photos?
No? That's very trendy now. That's very trendy with taxidermists now. There's a lot of people in London, especially, making pieces like that. Yeah, whole rats as headpieces and things. Yeah, it's coming back. Yeah. Yeah, the hummingbird ones are amazing. It's like a jewel. Can't get it over this one bit.
Can I ask you a question about how you started the skinning? You started on the back, and when I did some hours like on the front. General cut from the back?
I mix it up, it depends. So I find if you do it from the tummy, it's quite difficult to sew it up. This way is, I like doing it this way as well. Yeah, just depends, to be honest. The fox in that gallery is along the back. The only thing is, when you're sewing it back up, you have to put either some clay along the seam, so you can push the seam in as it dries, so you don't get a parting, or you have to groom it continually and push the seam in, things like that. Because it's quite long fur, so it can easily open. I can't get the tail on. Sorry, guys. Alright. I know. Pardon? Oh, I've just... Shh. This is very embarrassing. You might not believe me, but it is quite difficult to do and talk at the same time.
Never work with children or animals to say.
Yeah, I know. If anyone has any questions to distract me with, please. Usually, today I'm not going to do the tail next. I'm going to put that on later. I find that if you start to teach yourself an order, so especially with skinning, once you start to teach yourself an order, you stop thinking about it and you can just do it automatically. So when you're skinning, you do, you know, back legs, tail, wings and head, things like that. I'm going to come back to the tail later. His legs.
we could all continue to watch this, I'm sure, for hours. Jazmine will be here for another half hour or so doing this. If you'd like to have a closer look, do get up and have a look. I'm sure Jazmine won't mind. The rest of the museum is open for another hour or so. So is the cafe, if you'd like a drink or a bit of refreshment and then pop back. Also, tonight's been a very good, well-attended evening. We're really glad you could come. It's part of the Museums at Night initiative, and there are events on all over the country for the last few nights and tomorrow as well. If you see any others, it'd be great if you could go. Tonight has been a free evening, so if you'd like to put something in the donation box on your way out, that would be wonderful. Because putting on this sort of event has cost us money, and we really like to be able to continue to do that. As I say, keep watching Jazmine. It's fascinating to see how it's progressing, and I hope you enjoyed tonight, and you'll come back to the museum and see the exhibitions and look at Jazmine's work in the display. So thanks very much for coming.
If you want to carry on and come and ask me questions or anything like that, please do. The magazines and things are there if you want to look at those. If you've got one of my objects as well, if you could bring them back to the table, that would be great. Have you? Wicked.
Can I send a picture of your hands?
Yeah, with my funny rat. Let me put his eye in.
Thank you very much. That was brilliant. Thank you.
No worries. He doesn't look good.
It's okay. That's the whole process.
His hands are nice.
You hold him.
Andrea's probably heard off too, so we have to make sure we get a picture of the finished one for Goldie.
That's genuinely interesting. Thank you very much, Jazmine.
No worries. Nice to meet you.
You said that working on the larger animals was hard work, but this is hard work on your hands.
Yes, this is hard work, but I think that the larger ones, you've got more flesh to get off the skin and all of that, and it's just kind of
It's heavy, or tugging and pulling.
Yeah, this is quite, I mean, he looks quite messy now, but you start to put his eyes into the correct place, and I put some clay in his nose and build up his features, and it's just a lot more gentle than the bigger stuff.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
Is it quite difficult? I'm sorry, it's a bit gross, but like peeling the skin from the body? Is it quite like tough?
Something small like this, no. Something big, I don't know, actually, bigger stuff is almost nicer as well.
Yeah.
It just depends what it is, and domestic pets are horrible because they're so fatty.
Yeah.
So everything's different.
Yeah.
Domestic pets are like such an advocate for people with self-helping because they're just not nice.
See all the fat.
Yeah, they're just very. So wild animals have to be top of their game. So
Yeah, it's much leaner.
But I don't know if you've ever. I don't eat meat, but if you've ever skinned a rabbit for food or something like that, no, you don't. You don't.
It's always packaged in supermarkets. You don't.
Yeah, yeah.
Obviously, some people do.
Skinned fish, that's tough.
Yeah, that is very tough. The scales on the fish is very, very tough.
It's okay if I take a photo.
Oh, please.
Okay.
He's so beautiful right now. I'll post a picture when he's done and he'll look amazing, but right now he does not look very nice. Look at what's clay in his nose.
Don't you pin all the mouth areas? Does it shrink when it dries?
I wouldn't pin small things like something really big, or the fox. I pinned him literally just for a couple of days. If you pin them, the holes that you leave dry open. If you pin, the clay starts to set, and then water, and just keep pushing it every day is much better, in my opinion. Because otherwise you get holes, especially on something like this. You put pins all along his mouth, you pull them all out, and then you've got horrible holes. So,
But there's only clay in the legs, isn't there? You've no
The
metalwork in those.
the wire and the legs I built go to here,
That's right.
and then
Right,
there's
and
clay
then,
just inside his toes,
Yeah.
inside his feet, and in here the metalwork just goes to here.
To there.
And then the wire will run down the
And then
underneath
that's
him
just
like
to mount
this.
him.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
Something.
really cute.
He will be.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
That's
Nice
really
to meet you.
interesting. And you too.
What's the smallest animal you've done? I've done that tree creeper was pretty small. The picture it was only about this big. I've done very small mice and owls. I've never done a shrew as yet. The gold crests would be the smallest thing. It's smaller than a wren, so yeah. But I really like the smaller stuff. But blue tips and stuff I've done, and their bodies are ridiculous. They're nothing on the inside. So. Bye, Jazmine. Bye. Thank you for coming. Where's your mum? All right. Are you driving her home?
That's how it usually works.
Yeah. He's great. Guess what all my skulls were?
Really?
Oh, yeah, on its own. Andrea didn't think he would. She was like, oh. Yeah. Well done.
Do you ever work with anyone who wants to actually make a move?
Animatronics?
Yeah.
No, I've not done any of that. There's a few studios that specialise in it.
Making a move.
Yeah, for adverts and things, lots of the animals on adverts are often. Lovely to see you. Yeah, take care. I've no idea. I'm probably going to hang out with this guy for a while. Yeah.
Say that to Ben.
I will do. Take care. See you again. Thank you. Where are you based? Hastings on the south coast. Yeah. Are you interested in trying to do? You don't do taxidermy. You do taxidermy. Are you interested in trying?
I'm interested.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a few people in the mid. Well, mostly there's loads of taxidermists in the Midlands. If you went onto the Guild of Taxidermists and wrote a post on the forum saying that he's near me, sort of thing. Yeah. There's people to visit.
So does it cost quite a lot to get like the kit that you need to start?
Is a scalpel, essentially. I mean, the tanning stuff, you could just tan this in some maths and some alcohol, pickle it in the alcohol if you didn't want to make a tanning solution. So you could get methylated spirits. So you can do it all like really cheaply if you wanted to. I only have like an electronic pH reader and stuff because I do big things and I want to get it right. So yeah, but it doesn't. You can have a go with stuff that's in your kitchen and you'll be fine.
You mentioned the name of the supplier that you use to get your equipment from when
It's
you do it.
John Hallett from JHT Supplies.
John.
Yeah, I don't have any of his flyers left, but
If you can Google him.
yeah, it's
John
just
Hallett.
yeah. But if you just write JHT Taxidermy Supplies,
Yeah.
his website's very good. He sells like everything that I have here, really.
I used to use the Jazmine in Doncaster years ago.
Yeah, no, they're still going. Yeah, yeah. Snowdonia is still going. The good thing about John is you can phone him up and you can say, I've got a magpie, and he'll know exactly what size eyes you'll need. So
Watkins and Doncaster are good on that.
do they? Are they? All right. Okay. Yeah. It's nice. Yeah. So when you're learning, it's great because you don't know exactly all the sizes and yeah. But I like John.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Watkins and Doncaster are really nice. I buy the wooden frames, wooden bases and stuff from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know who they're run by. I've never met them, so yeah.
I was doing 1975. They were
Wow.
around then. And,
Oh really? So you've obviously done a few.
yeah, I got through roadkill. I did weasel, stoat, squirrel. Squirrel's my first one. Book from the library. Squirrel. Have a go. It's lasted
Yeah.
40 odd years.
Yeah, that's great. Did you put anything on the skin?
I did salt and borax.
Yeah.
Which is what they talked about in these days.
Yeah.
Pickling is interesting.
Yeah.
Is this the picklings that have been going for some time now? Is that a try test?
Well, Roland Ward used to pickle his skins, so that's ages. I don't know.
I haven't come across it before.
Oh really?
I haven't read any books for a few decades.
Yeah, yeah. No, I don't know. Well, since I've been doing it, you have to. That's the thing. But I don't know why it's not. Yeah, I don't know whether it's because it means that you can work with the skin longer because it's kind of fixed.
Sort of wetting the skin and all that.
Yeah. Oh really? Yeah.
Well, it's different, doesn't it? It's alarming when it's all wet and
Oh yeah, yeah.
it dries out okay.
Yeah. Oh no, when it dries, you see his feet are kind of coming nice.
Yeah.
So I have my hair dryer, and when I send him up, you groom it, and yeah. But I'll keep this wet until I'm finished. Yeah. Continually, you can spray it with water and put it in the freezer and get it back out a week later, and it's still fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a little collection in my freezer that has been there a few years now. I've got
Yeah.
a buzzard,
Yeah.
green shut up. And birds difficult, so plucking up courage.
Yeah, they're very fiddly. But I recommend having a go at the balsa form. It just makes it so easy when you're mounting them back up. Just kind of have you heard of Carl Church? No. He's got a brilliant book, which you can get online. It's only £5. It's PDF, so you don't actually get the book.
Okay.
But it takes you through the whole process of bird taxidermy, and it's just really clear. And if you just follow every step, you should get a brilliant thing. Yeah, he's very good. Yeah, and nice as well. So, yeah. And approachable. And he's in Yorkshire, so not too far.
Watkins and Doncaster, they did a few booklets when I first did it years ago.
Yeah.
It will stay popular, I'm not sure. It's very difficult to do. It's very time consuming.
Oh, it's
People can have a go, but they're going to get some good results.
yeah, you have to be very patient and really want to do it.
Skin, it's so easy to look in the skin, isn't it?
Yeah.
You usually say looking at the eyes, you can tell how good a specimen is if you can get the eyes to be realistic.
Yeah. But there are some amazing there's some amazing eyes now. I don't know if you've seen. I don't have them with me, but some people have been making the eyes, and the resin on top of the iris has got stuff in it, so that when you look at it sideways, it looks like a real eye, and just so there's depending on how much money you want to spend on your you can get some really good stuff. Yeah.
They used to have albino eyes, and you name it,
Yeah.
they come up with this. I had to get a pheasant once, and semi-rush job, not much room in the freezer to take a pheasant, so you ring them up and they send the eye through and you have a go at it the next day. But
Yeah.
to get a broken leg, send it into a cabinet skin in the end.
Yeah.
So lost patience after cut out for a whole day.
Yeah. I've met quite a lot of people actually that just go along the cabinet skin route in the end. They have a really amazing collection of
Feathers are fantastic.
yeah. The thing is, they look really bad for ages, and then all of a sudden they start to look kind of nice. It does not look any good right now.
Don't look really sweet.
Yeah, we'll get somewhere.
Stitching it down his back is interesting. So I assume that they're all virtually done underneath and you don't see the suture line.
Yeah, I prefer this because you can put it on, you can get it all finished, make sure all of the size is right, and then you don't have to take it off, bend the legs and try and sew it again. And especially when it's a really hard form, like the one in the gallery, you can't remove the legs or bend the legs, and that's it. So if you're trying to sew up underneath there, it's just not going to happen.
What sort of
Guy, but they're quite flexible. They're bendy.
I wasn't sure the curve needles would get the advantage, but I think it's straight.
Yeah, no.
Get the challenge of threading the needle, then.
Yeah, I always thread a few so that they're like ready, because the 12s are just, or the hole is smaller than the thread, so it's annoying.
Is there a needle threader that they use then, or you just keep
By
poking?
eye, yeah.
Yeah.
If there was one that was small enough, I would use it for sure.
The size of that, it's a smallish rat, isn't it?
It's a little baby one, isn't it? Yeah, it's a little juvenile. Poor guy. I have to sew his tail back up though, which is a shame.
That tail you had wound, you wore around it, it was wire with wore around it.
Yeah. Yeah, with the wood wool. I prefer the glue gun tails are much better. It's just so easy that you can cover them in glue and then the skin slips on just perfect. If you feel the fox in the gallery, it's really strong. I mean, apparently a kid did bend it into an S the other day, but you can bend it back, so it's okay. No worries.
Thank you.
No worries.
I'm just wondering if we meet you before I'm sorry, you tell me a little bit online.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's so nice to meet you. Obviously, I get I see people's drawings and their work, and then I've no idea what people look like.
Yeah, I always just see people look like them.
Yeah. I thought you would actually be a comic book character. What are you doing? Yeah. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this. I really enjoyed it.
No worries. I hope you enjoyed it. Yeah.
It's really nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah. Are you around tomorrow?
Yeah.
If you want to go for a quick, that'd be great. I'll message you on Twitter in the morning. So, because I'll be here until 1, I think. So I've got nothing to do. So yeah. Awesome. See you later.
Thanks so much for your time.
No worries.
Yeah, I've never sort of seen anything about taxidermy. It's really got me quite interested. I didn't realise how time consuming it can be and is.
Yeah, I think people don't realise all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more precise measurements and everything like that. It's sort of been eye-opening. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Yeah. Are you going to give it a go?
I don't know. I'm still thinking. No, I'm still thinking.
Yeah.
It's certainly got my interest there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's worthwhile.
The Guild of Taxidermist conference is always really good, and it's in Derby
Oh, is it?
every year. So in March, yeah, you should come. You should come. If you
Yeah, I've touched some leaflets about it. Yeah.
But the conference, like, you don't have to be a member or anything, and it's do you know the Hayes Conference Centre
Yeah,
in
Sonic.
Sonic? Yeah. And you can go as a day delegate if you don't want to stay, but it's nice to stay because you can get drunk with people and meet people and just ask them anything about taxidermy. So yeah, I very much recommend it.
Yeah, well, thank you so much.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Cost for the conference in general? Cost?
It costs, I think at the moment it's about £220 each for the whole thing, but that includes 2 nights, all your food, so breakfast, lunch and dinner for 2.5 days, I think, or maybe it's 2 full days in total. And as a day delegate, I think it's like £60 a day. And we always fly someone over. This year we had Yvonne Fitz, something from Berlin Museum. Yvonne Fitz-Schnell, I think. I'm going to pronounce her name wrong. She came and gave a talk about bats and things, so it's well worth it. Yeah.
Managed to get some Derby then.
I know, it's ridiculous. I know. But I've never been to this museum until I've been working on these projects, and I'm up here every year, just down the road. So it's very it's good to come here and see the museum. So
it's interesting you said Brighton and Edinburgh is the only 2 centres because the Woollerton Natural History Museum, many years ago, 15, 20 was it? They used to be doing work for the Natural History Museum, I believe.
Oh really?
So they were, yes, they were the resource. They got their own taxidermy centre.
Yeah.
I had a tour around there just before it sort of closed down. They stopped doing it. So
it's so sad because I mean the facilities at Edinburgh are really amazing. Like they've got a walk-in freezer and all this great stuff. But I mean, I'm not sure how long it will actually. They've only got 1 taxidermist in employment, so.
Hopefully enough work for them, but
yeah.
Say how much do they need? This is nice that they've been able to redo this display here. And,
yeah. They just commission out now museums. Don't need to have to keep someone on the payroll.
The expertise.
Yeah.
That's all right. GP, as it happens, my doctor, and had this buzzard in the freezer now for about 8 years. I haven't had time to do it, do you realise?
Yeah. Oh wow, 8 years.
Yeah, well, just trying to find that precious day or not to do it. I did succumb to one of these moulds for its torso that probably from Snowdonia through eBay or something. So I've got that available. Really like the idea, so I'll go into it.
That book I told you about, Carl Church, he also talks about if you use those forms, about how to adjust them, which is quite useful because I've never used one of those. But
treat yourself for that one. Snowdonia do a kit, don't they?
Yeah.
The torso,
the
eyes,
the
bits and pieces.
The borax.
So what's your commitment here tomorrow? Did you say you're doing something else tomorrow?
No. Just tonight. Just going to sit here and then I'm going to go to London. I'm doing another talk in London. For the museums at night, it's a big thing all over the country. So.
First year that's happened?
I don't know. I think maybe it's the 2nd or 3rd year. It's not been going for that long, I don't think.
Commitment and all these people staying on after hours.
Yeah.
Seems a bit special, isn't it? You thought Saturday was enough, but it's not very.
Yeah.
Work.
Yeah. It's starting to look like a rat. This takes a lot of fiddling.
Good. Some motivation to do a bit more. Thanks.
Nice to meet you. Bye. What time is it? 5 to 9. Can keep going for a bit. What time does the museum fully shut? Okay. Start packing up in a minute. Pack up time.
Yeah, looks like it. You could probably turn off the
Yes, please.
Good night, everyone.